Hello, I'm Kaylee Rose with Blue Nation Mentoring, and today I wanted to just kind of share a little bit about journaling, my process of journaling, how I use journaling with moon phases for emotional healing and connecting with my intuition. Um, but first of all, I want to say that if you're somebody who does not like journaling, like you hear the word journaling and you cringe or you feel some weird mixture of guilt or shame, or just for whatever reason, it does not your thing, um, I definitely can understand that. My whole life, I have avoided journaling largely because I thought it meant one thing and one thing only. So for me, for much of my life, I thought of journaling as, oh, every day or every couple of days, you need to write down what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. You need to keep a record. It's a uh, moral obligation to preserve your life for your future family, for yourself, to see how far you've come. And it just felt so heavy to view it like that, because I'd write and I just couldn't get it all down. I couldn't get down everything that I wanted to say. And I'd keep it up for maybe a couple of days, and then I'd miss a day or two, and then I'd feel overwhelmed because it's like, oh, I have to catch up. Um, and then I'd stop doing it, and then I'd feel shame because it's something I'm supposed to be doing. It's something I need to be doing. It's beneficial for me. It's going to be beneficial for other people. Why am I not doing it? Can you feel the frenetic energy in that and the shame? That's not a beneficial way to journal, in my opinion, and in my experience. Um, and I don't think that's really what journaling is intended to be. It's not intended to be this shame fueled should. Um, and I'm not sure how many years ago now, 5, 7 years ago, in that range, I began to realize and have experiences that helped me see that journaling could be something different and something that worked better for me, that actually served me instead of served as an opportunity for me to punish myself for not being good enough, which is a really sad and horrible way to live life. But that's where I used to be. And in learning a different way to approach journaling, I have experienced a lot of healing. For me now, journaling isn't so much a record for anyone as it is a process, something for me in the moment that I'm doing it that supports me in healing and having realizations and connecting with my higher power and connecting with myself. And one way that I do that is through a process that I call meditative journaling. And that's where I will do something that helps me really drop into my body, um, connect with my felt experience. And that can be like doing a little guided meditation, that can be doing some breath work, that can be just sitting and noticing what you notice, noticing what you feel in that moment, and breathing deeply. And that can be enough to drop you into a meditative state. And then once you're in that meditative state, responding to journal prompts, um, and responding to them regardless of whether it makes logical sense, like what you're writing. Just writing whatever comes out and as much as comes out, and even drawing or scribbling if that's what needs to come out in response to a journal prompt. And just writing and writing and writing until it feels complete, regardless of if it makes sense, and not editing or judging as you go. And then if it feels right, going back through and reading what you wrote and gleaning what insight there is there for you. Because when you drop into a meditative state and then respond to journal prompts or simply write, free write, you actually connect with your unconscious or subconscious mind and beliefs that you hold and things that are locked in you, that maybe you are not consciously aware of, at least not all the time. You can access those things, including old pains, including gifts and abilities, including parts and pieces of yourself that, for one reason or another, are not fully integrated into who you are right now, like into you and how you're showing up in the world. All of those things are in that unconscious space that you can access through meditative journaling, through free writing. And it's really beautiful. And if you pair it with the moon phases and the energy of the moon phases, that can really facilitate emotional healing and connecting to your own intuition, which is why I curate meditative journaling prompts specifically for moon phases, so that other people and myself can really lean into the support of the moon phase, as well as connect with their own unconscious self, and just really step into that healing and empowerment that's available there. Another way that I use journaling as a healing tool for myself is I have a journal. This is my journal currently, where I write down things that feel significant for me to write down, removing as much should as possible, and just writing what feels important for me to remember. I also will journal prayers sometimes, like my communication with my higher power, my Heavenly Father and my Heavenly Mother, which is what I call God. And I will have conversations with my higher power in my journal, where I will write a prayer, my side of the conversation, and then we'll just sit and wait for whatever communication comes forward. And sometimes I'll actually write down what comes forward. Other times it's just feelings or sensations that are a little bit hard to translate into words. But that's one way that I utilize journaling for my healing and for my empowerment. But besides the journal, I have what I call my burnal. Burn journal, burnal. And I don't remember where I learned about that concept, but my burnal, it holds all the dark, ugly, icky, painful things that come up for me. The times when I am feeling really overwhelmed or feeling really worthless or I'm really angry, I write it out. And I write whatever comes into my mind, no matter how awful it is. Because I recognize that that awfulness is not actually me. That's my pain speaking. And if I can write it out in the burnal, if I can get that yuckiness out of me, I get clear faster. I'm able to see truth faster. I'm able to feel what I'm feeling in that moment without it being destructive to myself or other people. Because I used to sometimes, my pain and my anger would be more external, and like my husband would listen to me sob and rant and rave, or it would be more internal and I would tear myself apart with my inner dialogue. Like before I learned boundaries and recognizing what thoughts and emotions were actually mine and what were things I was picking up of other people, before I went from being utterly overwhelmed by everything that I sensed to only occasionally getting a little bit overwhelmed by everything I feel and sense. Journaling has supported that process, including writing in my journal and having boundaries around my journal that, like, okay, whatever's written in this is not actual reality. If I write something horrible about another person or about myself, that is not reality. That is me getting that up and out of me. That's me transmuting an energy I don't want to stay with me into something else. And the journal is just a receptacle for that. And so the rule in my house is you don't read the journal. Like I can read it because it helps me gain a sense of how far I've come, but sometimes I don't read it because sometimes it's super heavy. And the journal is ultimately intended to be burned, to be gotten rid of when it's no longer, this particular journal is no longer serving the purpose that of showing me how far I've come. Um, then it gets burned. Um, but it could be incredibly painful for somebody else to read my journal, especially if they think that that's actually what I think and feel, rather than that's what I thought and felt when I identified with my pain instead of with the truth of who I am and who other people are. So, journal for the things that I want to remember, for communicating with my higher power, for writing down things that just feel significant for uplifting and guiding me now and in the future. Journal for processing the hard, heavy, and processing whether things are even mine, getting out the yucky, awful stuff so that it doesn't exist inside me anymore. Um, and sometimes an opportunity to look back at, wow, when I used to be in a lot of pain, I would write like this. And now when I'm in a lot of pain, I write like this. Look how far I've come. Two very different things, but together, incredibly powerful and significant for my journey, my healing journey. And for me, like this whole process of journaling and all these different variations that I use as a support for my well being began about 7 years ago when I started learning that most of what I felt that was painful was not actually mine. I was picking up on other people's pain, um, or I was living out ancestral pain. And journaling started out as, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm starting to have horrible thoughts about myself. I'm starting to not be able to handle my young children, and I'm going to lose it. So I would sit down and I would write down every thought and every feeling that came to me in that moment until it was done. And then I would go through each and every one, and using my intuition, I would feel into, okay, is this feeling or thought that I've written down, is this mine? And if it is mine, what percentage of it is mine? And of that percentage that is showing up as mine, is it actually mine, or is it showing up as mine because it's in my epigenetics, because it is an ancestral energy that I've inherited? And going through that with each thing, oh, I hated it sometimes. I hated having to sit down and do that and go through that process because I just wanted to be able to be fine without doing it. And my poor husband, the many times he's like, Kaylee, go journal. I don't want to go journal. Kaylee, please go journal. But doing that helped me realize 1% of that icky thought was actually mine. 0% of that horrible feeling was actually mine. 10% of this one was mine. The vast majority of the time, the big and painful and ugly that I felt, and the thoughts that I had that were mean and terrible about myself or even other people, the vast majority of the time were not even mine, or were very a little bit mine, just a little bit mine. And as I practiced doing that, I was able to begin to recognize, like, what am I responsible for and what am I not responsible for? And to be able to set boundaries around my own energy, for to be able to send what's not mine back to whoever sent it or to a mediator. And for me, my mediator is Jesus Christ. You don't have to use Jesus Christ as a mediator if you don't resonate with him. But sending what's not yours to the light to be transmuted, sending it to the universe to be dealt with accordingly. Like, if it's not yours and it's not your responsibility, you can set those energetic boundaries. You can send things back. You can send things away. You don't have to keep them. You don't have to claim them, and they don't have to rule you in your life. I feel like I went off a little bit on a tangent. Let's see, where was I headed? Um, hmm. Oh yes. And it got to the point as I would go through this process of writing things down and feeling out what was mine and what wasn't mine, I was able to then start recognizing, like, okay, this percentage, this is ancestral. Do I have a place in its healing? And if I didn't, let it go. And if I did, I could pray or use my intuition to understand what my role was in healing that thing. And it helped me to see responsibility and boundaries and agency more clearly. And it helped me to recognize when I was acting like I had to save other people when they've already been saved, or when it was never my job to save them. And it freed up a ton of my energy for other things that I actually am here to do, instead of trying to do things with energy that's not mine and then neglecting what's actually mine. So that's just kind of an introduction to my journey with journaling, some of the things I do, some of the ways that you can potentially utilize journaling to support you as a therapeutic practice. Journaling doesn't necessarily have to look like you thought it had to look. But at least that was the case for me.